Okay, here we go again. So there's a guy called in the bully pack, the gaslighting brigade. His name is, just get it for you. Well, his SUCKA account name is SUCKA account. How brilliant of him. So what SUCKA account did was he gave me a video. So I'm going, because he said it was one of the best he's seen. So I'm going to review it. So here we go. SUCKA.
So maybe what I'd like to do, if you don't mind, is give you my take now on what spirituality actually is. And philosophy.
It's interesting. This has actually got 765 views. That's quite impressive, actually. 27 thumbs up and 1 down. So I guess I'll only understand about that when I actually see the whole thing. So a great example of what happens when someone with some knowledge on a subject goes up against a half-wit, like Rob Beasley. If you get bored watching the whole video, at least check something. But anyway, let's watch it and see what happens. Hopefully we'll see SUCKA will be in here. So SUCKA account is a guy that thinks he's intelligent, right? So I guess he's talking about himself. So hopefully, it'll make this really interesting. And I hope one day he gets to see my review, because he'll learn something special about himself. Let's see how we go.
Where it all comes from. Oh, and just stop me at any point.
This is 12 months old.
You want to ask a question or challenge.
Yeah. Now, so I'm being polite. I'm offering, interruptions. They're welcome, no drama. When you argue with this SUCKA account dude, totally different ball game. I might debate him at some point just to prove that point, just to demonstrate his bad behaviours. Well, they're self-explanatory. I'll say in advance, he might be listening now, but I'll say in advance what his behaviours will be, and then people can watch. So I'll be predictive of his behaviours. He can't help himself. He's probably one of the worst out of control ego minds I've come across.
Because if you do that,
one of,
we actually benefit from the whole experience. And I get to learn something about a flawed part of my apprentices.
Exactly. I'm open to good information. I'm not open to bullshit or pranking or gaslighting.
Just a minute off. So, Toasty, what did he do? Guilty conscience. Now, here's the summary, or the bottom line, what it's all about, Alfie. We have in us 2 survival instincts.
So I haven't changed my story 1 inch. I haven't improved on it. There's no new information come to the fore. No one's been able to produce anything that breaks that paradigm. All I get is just loose chatter from, people that probably don't know any better.
They are survival of the self, right? So preservation of the self and the self-alone.
And that's why we have a flight-fight mechanism protecting that self. So it's not the physical self alone that it protects the identity of the self. And that's where the ego resides. Nowhere else. That's specifically where it sits.
And an instinct that's about surviving for community or for the herd. So in nature, you see those 2 phenomena.
And that's true too. Go and have a look at nature. There's a great example of it by Robert Sapolsky, which shows 2 baboon communities and how they adopt each separate model given a change in circumstances. And it's clearly evident that you get a totally different set of behaviours. One is you could class as evil, and the other one you could class as good, if just for a simple explanation of what's going on. That's the other thing, folks. Life isn't as complicated as you might think.
They're two different models that you see in nature. So humans have both instinct in the mix. And the selfish survival instinct is the basis for everything that humans classify as evil. And its fundamental principle is selfishness. On the other side of the coin, the survival instincts for the herd is about loving thy neighbour, and it's the source of true love and truth. They go across, and it's about authentic selflessness. So I'd just like to read to you enough.
Now, I leave a bit of stuff out there because there's more going on each side, but I'm just trying to get through.
Old Cherokee wisdom, which I think sort of...
Yeah. They get pissed off when I read this, but it's, you know, if they were honest folk, or maybe they're just their ego fucks with their ability to see an alternative, you know, see beyond the selfish perspective of the world. They may not see, yeah, shit, that might be a problem. That might be the problem. They might not see this side within them, this authentic, true love, true joy, etc. This love thy neighbour instinct. That might be, oh dear, that might be one of the fundamental problems. These people just simply don't know it exists. Holy shit. So how do I actually introduce them to it? That might be the big fucking problem right there. Anyway, let's go.
Gives these two survival instincts a bit of a context. An old Cherokee told his grandson, there is a battle between two wolves inside us all. One is evil. It is anger, jealousy, greed, resentment, inferiority, lies, and ego. Now, if you look at those characteristics, they're all about the self. We're all born about the self. Then the other wolf is good. It is joy, love, peace, hope, humility, kindness, empathy, and truth. Those characteristics are about the others, or the community, and us fitting into that community. So the boy thought about it and asked grandfather, which wolf wins? And the old man quietly replied, the one you feed. And fundamentally, I hold that to be an absolute truth and the absolute statement on free will.
Okay. Well, that's a...
This might be SUCKA. Okay, SUCKA. Let's hear what you got to say for yourself. So the problem here might be that SUCKA, because he's very much ego-driven, and he hangs with these bully boys, and they're all ego-driven, they don't know true love. I think that might be the problem. You know, you don't manufacture this shit. It's just becoming aware of it.
parable or story,
Here we are back again.
and I like it. Although I'm reluctant to classify anger as something that's to be bad, and love is always something to be good.
And that's a common phenomenon. People want to have that sort of grey area, I guess, but it's not. There's no grey area. So fear, all anger comes from fear. That's the space. Where does fear come? Fear comes from preservation of the self, the ego identity, the self-identity. So that's where it comes from. So you find an authentically selfless human being, you'll find that there's very little fear and there's very little ego. Fear and ego and lies and anger and all of that sits with preservation of the self-identity. So I think you're wrong. And love, there's only one form of authentic, true love. And I was just thinking, I honestly don't think that a lot of people don't know what that is, which is really interesting. Oh, goodbye, viewer 3. Don't like talking about love, perhaps. Gets you all feeling uncomfortable.
Okay, hold it. So this is how so I have a very sort of a strict format. So when you make an assertion, a position that I'd like to explore a little bit more, I want to stop it right at that point,
Okay.
and then have a discussion about that point, and then we just keep moving along. And it's sort of like examination of the specifics. What happens in most dialogues, and you see it often on the internet, is that people broadcast positions, but they don't pause to examine the claims and this is where I think they lose a lot of value in communication. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you stop and pause, and so you said, you get an opportunity to actually really dig deep on some. Well, it's in the specifics that we get the most learning, I think, and not the broad-based statements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So can you just say what you said about your position on anger and love, and how you see those two qualities, and then I want to just give a counter position, and maybe we can have a bit of a debate about that.
I just said that I was skeptical of classifying anger as always as necessarily always bad, or the bad wolf, or
Okay.
just what were the other attributes of the bad wolf?
Yeah.
Could you read them out again?
Yeah, I will, but I don't want to move. I want to hold us to this anger concept, because if the more we can narrow the point of interest or contention, the more hope we've got of really having a rich discussion. So remember this place that we're at and the other things that you want to know, and then we'll go to them. So you're saying basically though that anger is not always a bad thing. I actually take the position that no, it's not a good thing. Oh, hang on.
I didn't say that it was bad nor good. I merely said that I'm skeptical of the idea that it's necessarily bad.
Okay. Actually, I tend to agree with that now that I think about it. And I'll tell you why. Because anger can be driven from the ego, right? From that perspective, right? And that's not a good thing. But if it's a survival scenario, and it's a fight for your life, then there is a context where anger may well be useful. It gets the body all fired up and ready for battle. Is it a just battle? Well, who knows? Well, that depends on that. Well, that's actually specific too. That depends on whether it's feeding the good wolf or feeding the bad wolf. Brings that about. Yeah. So yeah. But I just want to explore it a little, just to get my position and be clear about yours. So, yep, let's move on. What's the next one?
The next one.
Oh well, no. If you've you want to continue the discussion on that, we don't move forward until everybody's happy to move forward.
On anger?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think that anger in some situations is not bad. I feel like
Example. So when you make a statement like that, it's important that you actually follow it up with your example.
So I said that I think, like, it is my view that anger in some situations is not bad. So,
Yeah.
so an example of situations in which I don't think anger is a bad thing is situations in which maybe a friend of mine has been severely wronged, and I am angry about that. I don't see any reason to classify my anger as morally a moral transgression.
Okay. Good. And it's really good when we get to a specific example, because then in response I can be very specific as well. So my views on that are that the reaction to look after your friend comes from, right, because everything comes from these two survival instincts. It comes from the good survival instinct. So in other words, it's a moral action, right, to want to look after that friend. The anger, though, right, and you don't need to be angry to address it. Penny, agree? We don't need to be angry in our response. Anyone there?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I like it when you're right on the ball. So we don't need to be angry, right? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, mate. We don't need, the anger's not part of. It's not. It's moral. It's not morally good, right?
Does that mean it's morally bad?
Yeah. Well, yes, it is, because where the anger comes from is preservation of the self. So it's about the self.
Well,
So
so I want to make sure I understand what you're saying precisely.
Sure.
The emotion that we equate with the term anger, you're saying that anytime that emotion is present, there's been a moral transgression.
Yep, I think so, because anger only comes from the ego, and it's only born out of the self. So in other words, if you were a truly enlightened individual, you'd never be angry.
Why should we think a thing like that?
Eh?
Why should we think a thing like that?
Well, it's not a matter of thinking a thing like that, and that's actually a big problem in a lot of philosophy, is that people think the thoughts are the basis of, you know.
No. I mean, what justification is there for your proposition being true?
It's just the way things are. I mean, how do I explain?
You're just reasserting your position.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to think of the appropriate way to answer it. So do you remember the idea that I gave, and I told that two wolf story, right? That's the absolute statement on morality. So in other words, if you're serving the selfish instinct, right?
But why I am inclined to reject the wolf story as an absolute standard for morality. I see no reason to offer. I see no reason that this admittedly amusing story should be the basis in which I found my moral system.
Okay. Right, a couple of observations, because I don't want to miss the opportunity to, give you a different perspective. So you said something, you basically treat, and this is your ego, so don't take any offense, we all have one. Oh, well, not me and Benny, we don't. But what you just did is you made light of something that previously you'd said I like. You changed, hey?
What did I say?
Well, previously when you heard the two wolf story, you said I like the story, but now, yeah, I understand that. But come down the track a little bit, right? When you're trying to make a statement based on, ego, you make light of it. You sort of say, almost may have said it's rubbish.
I don't think it's rubbish. I think it has good things to offer us. However, I'm not going to base my entire moral system on it. You continue to make these
Yeah, that's where it gets interesting. What I should have done at that point, he's basically asserting that but he makes a good point though. Got to give it to him. I am convinced by my research that duality is the reality. He's basically saying no, it's not. He's saying morality has other factors. So there's two ways to deal with this juncture. The first one is that, and this is where people say, no, you answer first, and all that stuff goes on. The first way is we say, all right, well, what you ask the question, what are the other measures of morality? And then you just pick that apart. And if my premise is right, I should be able to say clearly how each measure of morality that he brings up that he sees as outside of it does not apply to the duality reality story. On the other side of the coin, the second way is I've got to say, well, how did I come to this conclusion about these two aspects being reality? And what do I base that on? So I would have to go back to, and it would be a lengthy discussion. I'd have to go back to the Gospel of Thomas or Gospel of Jesus written by Thomas and go through each saying and show clearly how that's based on a duality. I then need to refer to other spiritual texts, how they relate to a duality, how we have this concept of yin and yang. Dualities everywhere in the world. Now, he may choose to accept it or not, but that'll be where I'm basing it on. The model seems to work everywhere. I could then show him the video, so you can start to see how it becomes a very long, drawn-out discussion. The easier route to do is the route that says, all right, you think that this premise is wrong. Let's now explore the other options, that break the condition of the duality reality. And what I've realized in recent times is that there gets an entanglement between two survival instincts and anger, and evil and good, because people say you can be evil and good, selfishness and selflessness. They'll say that you can be selfish and still be classified as good, but everything's got to be related back to the instinct that drives it. That's where you start. That's where the true duality. Beyond that duality, right, which is very absolute and doesn't cross over at all that I'm aware of, is an abstraction of words that reflect, in summary, these two polar positions of selflessness and selfishness, and light and dark, and yin and yang, and good and bad, good and evil, naughty and nice, all that sort of stuff. So it's important to keep the focus back there, and that's where the discussions get lost a little. They just do.
Discussions about me making claims from the ego. However, you've yet to justify this notion of, this proposition coming from the ego, and my anger coming from the ego, and all these things. So while you're accusing other people of oftentimes broadcasting their views, it seems to me like you're doing the same thing.
No. What I'm doing is, that's incorrect. And again, that's the ego nature speaking. Don't worry. It's not a big deal. I mean, 98% of the bloody population have got this going on. But
he's actually right, though, I think, because, well, yeah, this is the dilemma. Okay. I've got to find a better way, but there may not be a better way. These things are absolute and they're invisible. How do you can't pull an instinct out and say, look, here it is. I can see the dilemma, and I can see why he takes that position.
And what I'm doing is I'm stating facts, and because I state the truth, when you hear that, hang on, wait. When you hear that, what you do is it conflicts with your views at the time, and that creates cognitive dissonance.
Okay.
I'm not so sure about that. Cognitive dissonance only occurs, it's got very specific. So it does occur when there's a difference of opinion if, and it's very obvious when it occurs. Very, very obvious. It hasn't happened here with this guy.
Why should I believe that what you're saying is the truth? I see no epistemic justification of what you say.
Yeah. You shouldn't, right? What you should do in life, right, is find the truth for yourself. You shouldn't accept anything stuff. What does that mean? What it means is that you take on board all manner of information and ideas, and you basically test them through observation of, does that apply to people that you know? Or how does that relate to me? And hopefully in the journey of life, you'll find the absolute truth, because there is an absolute truth.
Now that there, I just broadcasted a position. It's a difficult one to actually cover succinctly in a short debate. And that's an issue. That's my problem. I have to sort of deal with that. Just have to think if I can. Because what Jesus said, seek and find, and it had to be up to the individual. I mean, these are things, it's know thyself. It's not, hey, Rob, come here and know thyself for me. It doesn't work that way. It's true introspection. Oh, good. He's giving me something to think about.
Okay, that doesn't. Okay, so you still haven't provided epistemic justification. You admitting you cannot provide it?
Oh, there we go. Epistemic. That's probably what got me back up. Epistemic. Relating to knowledge, or to the degree of its validation. Of relating to or involving knowledge, cognitive. Oh dear, there's a problem already. Let's have a look. Epistemology, meaning knowledge, and meaning logical discourse. I worry about that. That's a problem, because the answers of reality, particularly when we're talking about instinctual reality, aren't found in the mind. Is the branch of philosophy concerned with the theory of knowledge? Rationality of belief. Well, see, their belief is nothing. And justification. Much of the debate in 4 areas: the philosophical analysis of the nature of knowledge and how it relates to such concepts as truth, belief. Belief isn't anything. Truth is, and justification. So justification is the evidence behind the truth, various problems of skepticism, the sources and scope of knowledge and justified belief, and the criteria for knowledge and justification. The criteria for knowledge. So I don't mind that one. The criteria. Yeah, Well, the senses are the true arbiters of reality and truth. Let's see how we go. Oh, geez. This is Chaswold. You are a despicable human being. Rob, you are going through a manic phase. No, I'm not. If this keeps up, you will go to the nut house. We won't put you there. Well, not according to Bulldog. Bulldog said quite a number of occasions that he's going to put me there. We will be the victims of your behaviour from that. No, Chaz. It's as I said. I'm not wrong. You guys, and there's evidence of your behaviours, are gaslighters. That's the precursor to the stay in the mental health care. So you're not going to get off the hook. Well, you might believe that you are, but the truth of the matter, Chaswold, one day, maybe if you look over some of the videos that you're in, you'll see what I'm talking about. Oh, you terrible human being. Golly gosh, they're cruel beyond measure. Okay, anyway, let's rock and roll. I should have paid attention to this last time. I mean, I still hold the view that I'm right, but what I'm not doing is I'm not providing a convincing enough platform. Is that realistically possible, given the subject matter? Do I have to write another book? Oh dear.
Justification?
No. But first you have to tell me what epistemic means.
Okay. Epistemic is a reference to the field of philosophy known as epistemology, which has to do with the realm of knowledge. And why?
Hold it. Sorry, I just got to catch this thought, and I've got to stop you from sort of going past it because it just makes it a bit difficult. So what I want to know is what is it?
I'm in the process of describing that to you. If you don't interrupt me.
Okay.
To say that a claim is epistemically justified is to say that you have some support, some reason, to use a very easy term, for why you believe something.
Okay, got it, James, got it. I'm very quick in mind. Right, so what you're saying, and just, confirm that I've got the understanding correct, because I might have still missed something. But what you're saying is that the mind is the arbiter of truth.
No, absolutely not.
All right.
There's nothing that could even remotely be gleaned from my statement that would reference that.
Well, it sounded like it, the way you put it, it sounded like the mind was actually the arbiter of truth.
No.
But anyway, say it again, if you wouldn't mind.
About what epistemic justification is?
Yeah.
You have a belief, okay? Let me give you an example. If I have a belief, to say that that belief is justified in an epistemic sense means that there is something that supports me thinking that belief is true. So, for instance, I have the belief that it's sunny outside right now. And I have that belief, and I have epistemic justification for that belief. And that epistemic justification comes from a variety of venues. One, I can look out my window and see that it's sunny. Even if I couldn't look outside, I could pull up my phone and look on the internet and see that it's sunny. I could call my friends and ask them, and they could say that it's sunny. I could think about the time of year it is and what the weather's been like lately, and maybe if I was clever, deduce from that it's sunny. I have reasons to support my belief that it is sunny outside. So you've offered several propositions since we've been, talking here about the nature of ego and morality and stuff like that. And I'm saying, what justification, what support do you have for thinking that these propositions are true? Because so far I've seen none.
Got it. Right, so we don't need to go back there, and I understand your point. It's basically, you need, how do I validate my position? So let me do that. jump in at any point you feel like, right? Any point at all, stop me for an explanation. But then I might need a bit of a memory reminder to where we're at. But fundamentally, I need to introduce a couple of concepts and see if you agree, right? And then we can get into the actual evidence. So the first concept is time. Oh, hang on. Oh dear.
Chaswell arrives. Yeah, I bet you he'll squawk up and ruin this. I'm interested to see what my answer was.
Chaz,
Rob,
I'm gonna have to hide you from broadcast because I'm speaking with James, so I need to finish that discussion with him. That's only polite. Right. So James, don't bring him off broadcast. Right. So James, do you accept the idea that the time is only ever, collection of data, right, that goes to the brain, so that informs the brain, comes in via the senses and only occurs in what you might call the now. So in other words, right now my senses are actively functioning in this present time slots, and they're pulling data in, and my brain then processes that data. So then, once I move past that moment in time, I'm not able to go back and use my senses in past time, nor am I able to use my senses in future time. I can only ever use my senses in the present moment. Do you think that's a fair statement?
Well, I hold to a tense theory of time, so I don't think that the past or future is present, is actuated. So yeah, I can't use 5 minutes ago doesn't exist. I can't,
Yeah, exactly.
I can't go to 5 minutes ago.
Okay. Well, I think we agree. So, and if in the discussion at a point you think, oh, hang on, no, that's a variation, just say so. So we now have a concept of data coming into the we now have a concept of data coming in the now. Benny, is that you?
Bloody Benny.
Yeah, I know he said, but Benny, we are the enlightened ones, not him. He can sit there. I mean, he doesn't have to be part of the broadcast to still hear. I'm going to mark him high.
Rob, these are the games that Benny plays, okay? This is why you should not give Benny controls.
No, trust Benny.
Well, maybe not anymore.
He's got his reasons. Well, you have to wait, Benny. I know that you're fizzing at the bit for that, but I must respect Joan. Okay, so the next thing we've got information coming on board. See, when they interrupt me, I listen to the bloody train of thought. So that occurs in the same moment. That's reality. Oh, sorry. Now, would you consider agreeing that reality is absolute? So, in other words, the external environment, from the perspective of the now, is there is only one environment. So, if multiple people are observing that environment, the variation occurs within the person's perception, but certainly not in the senses.
Reality is objective. I think that's what you're meaning to say.
Correct.
I agree. Reality is objective.
Hey, James, I like you. Well done, dude. Now, what am I trying to prove again? Just refresh my mind.
I don't know. I thought you would know that. I asked you why should I think that all this talk about my ego and
Okay, I've collected my thought. Okay, so let's follow the chain of events, right? So reality sits there to be recognized and captured. It can only be captured in the now or the current moment. It comes in via the senses. The senses don't vary. There are exceptions, like colour blindness and the like, but those sort of things we can measure and report scientifically. So we've still got no beliefs or unvariables when it comes to senses. It comes on board in the brain. What happens in the brain? We have these two survival strategies, right?
Not in the brain, I don't think. Or maybe it's in the brain, somewhere in the bloody body.
Operating. So they're ever present from start to finish, and they don't vary across population. They're just consistent sort of instinctual things, you know, like hearts, lungs, livers, all that sort of stuff. They're held in common. Anyone know the uncle? You know, okay. James, the reason we're cautious is that we're being heavily trolled.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've just got to be a little bit cautious who comes in. So here's where ego is born, right? As we're experiencing this stream of data coming on board, the self-survival mechanism, depending on the environmental context, could fire off. And what it does, it wants to protect the self. So when the data that's coming in, which is pure and accurate, is redefined or repurposed to suit the preservation of the self. So now what we've got is we have a faulty idea held in mind that has no basis in reality. So we can't, if we speak that idea and we look at the real circumstances, there's a disconnect. This is the birthplace of all lies, all things classed as lies. So what happens over time, we have a collection of these faulty ideas about reality. And so in other words, and then what the person that has these faulty, they tend to then, well, the ego function or the self function wants to protect these notional ideas. Because
Wait,
it's these.
when you use the term ego, what specifically are you referring to?
Yeah, the collection of these faulty assessments of reality.
Okay, so anytime you use the term ego, you're referring to the collection of my false beliefs.
Or no, not yours specifically, but you know, a set of beliefs that do not match the reality.
If my beliefs don't match reality and reality is objective, then doesn't that mean my beliefs are false?
Correct.
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
Okay, so the ego is a collection of my beliefs which are false.
Correct.
Okay.
About the self, though, specifically about the self.
Earlier, when you said the things I was asking, they were a result of
relating to the self. There's a relationship to the self in some way.
Ego. You were just asserting that they were results of false beliefs.
Correct.
Okay. So I would love for you to hear. I would love to hear support on why the questions I asked were somehow presented by my false beliefs.
Because of the reason I knew is because of the behaviours that align with cognitive distance. So when the true state,
wait, I want to make sure we're on the same page.
Sure,
you say cognitive distance. What are you referring to specifically?
Yeah. Now it's not this classical version, but it's mine, and I hold it to be absolutely accurate.
Okay, that's the issue. You're using terms differently than they're often used.
Correct.
Okay, so please use terminology in a way in which everyone is going to understand without having to refer to the Rob dictionary.
No, I won't. I don't tell lies. I just report accurately. So the problem's not mine. The problem's not mine. The problem's yours or others. Yeah.
So I have somehow had a false belief because when you use a word which is classically used and commonly used to refer to a certain concept, I assumed you were meaning it was referring to that common concept.
No. What happened was I spoke the true condition. You relied on the common held position. Now, here's a point, and just allow me to make this point because because it's really useful for the discussion, and it allows us to get really strict on evidence. The cognitive dissonance event, as I describe it, can only occur, right? So the behaviours, so I watch the behaviours pattern like a hawk, and so I see the behaviour and I say, bingo, that's cognitive dissonance. That then tells me that there's a faulty idea held in mind.
Okay.
So the only way,
Cognitive dissonance.
in my terms, right? So cognitive dissonance is, remember I said that ego is false ideas held in mind, and that there's a reason. Yeah, the reason that they occur is that this self-survival strategy interferes with the incoming data and repurposes it. I can give you specifics on that as well. Actually, I might give you one.
Okay, no. So wait, what was your definition of cognitive
Yeah,
dissonance?
okay. Yeah, fair enough. I was in 2 months on that too. So remember I said it's faulty ideas.
Yeah, I know your definition of ego. Let's pick it up a bit.
Yeah. All right, mate. Just 1 second. Sorry about that. So cognitive dissonance, my definition, and I think I'm 110% right, is faulty notional ideas are held in memory. The true state, right, the true condition of the faulty idea is brought present, and those ideas are held in mind at the same time. And this is the trigger.
Okay, I just want to back up because something's bothering me a little bit.
Yeah.
You understand that when we use a term such as cat or whatever,
Yeah.
that term is a symbol which represents an idea, right?
Yeah.
So a definition is, we're saying, okay, when somebody uses this term or this symbol, that they're referring to this idea.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused on how you could say that your definition, which you admit is not the common one, is, quote, 110% accurate, because, or 110% true. Because first off, a definition is accurate or inaccurate. Either it's an accurate account of what people mean when they use the term, or it's not an accurate account of how people use it. It doesn't make sense to say that the definition is true or false.
Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, what was that last thing? It doesn't make sense that.
The way you're using the term definition is not good.
How do you know? That's Benny. Don't worry. Hang on.
Because honestly, all I've heard so far, and just being completely honest with you, is a
Cool.
clusterfuck of nonsense that has no meaning.
Well, hang on. We haven't.
That's interesting. If you go back, so what he's done there is he's got his nose out of joint with the discussion. And, I think there are some points there that are valid, and I can understand his point of view. And I don't think that cognitive dissonance, whether, I don't know, I don't read it as cognitive dissonance this time around. So I reckon I made the wrong call there. However, when I brought him through the discussion, right, on things that I thought were obvious, he agreed, that data comes in the context of the now, comes on board. Where we would have got lost would have been on the idea of instincts interrupting that data flow, and specifically, well, only one that really does any damage, being the self-survival instinct. So there was quite a bit that he agreed with, but then he came back with a motherhood statement discounting the whole lot, which is not consistent with where he was at. But that's okay.
Not proof yet. So don't.
But I don't even know what you're proving, because apparently all the terms you're using, I don't even know what you're referring to, because you're admitting that you're not using definitions that are common.
That's correct too. I agree with that.
All right. Sorry, Benny again. Now, let's just try and stay on point and just get this cognitive dissonance out of the road. So faulty ideas in memory, right? Or false ideas about reality.
Okay, when you say false ideas, you mean false beliefs, right?
No, just an idea or a thought about reality that doesn't match reality. Simple as
Okay,
that.
how is that different from a false belief?
Okay.
I hate the term belief. That's how.
Interesting question. False belief. See, I've never liked the word belief. I reckon we should cancel it from the fucking dictionary.
Okay,
False.
listen. This
False.
is
Well, a belief.
listen. I appreciate you taking the time to try and talk with me. If I'm being honest, you don't seem like you have a clue when any of the
Not listening.
And that was that. Now, it's good to think about it because I can see the dilemma. But how do I bridge that dilemma? Whew. Anyway, we'll try it. Well, thank you, viewer. Thanks for dropping by.